This is what finally you all will be using it when you are working in an organization, because the graphical user interface is for beginners really. So this is what is critical, and it is very, very important that you practice it. So what I will do is, I will tell you what command line interface is and the importance and the security aspect and how to authorize, etc. But it is a huge area where there are hundreds of commands and options. So important critical commands I will demonstrate. Rest you can explain and explore, and you can ask your questions. Supposing some command is not working for you, you can send an email to tax support and I will address it. Yes, service GUI is very easy. CLI is important. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so now, do you have any questions so far? Anything related to what we have covered so far? Okay, great. So let's proceed. Today's session we will begin with command line interface, and this is myself, the trainer Sri Prakash Neelakandan. I am the chief cloud architect. I am also an author, and I have currently multiple Amazon certification, including the DevOps engineer professional. This is the support contact. Tax support at Collabra is where you will address all your queries. Okay, CLI stands for command line interface. Is a unified tool to manage your AWS services. With just one tool, you can control multiple Amazon services, and automate them through scripts. Ashutosh, yes, absolutely. ELB or the Elastic Load Balancer is a critical component of Amazon Cloud, and we will 100% address, and we will practically demonstrate and see how it works, how an Elastic Load Balancer works. Okay. Now, Amazon CLI sits on top of a Python-based library called Boto. So, if you are a Python programmer, you can use Boto and bypass this CLI and use those API calls directly with Boto. But that is not a part of this course. And if you are not already depending on these utilities, you wish to check out AWS CLI. So this is what you will use: AWS CLI user guide and reference. Okay. Now installing on Ubuntu, it's like this. You will do a apt-get update to update your repository, and then install Python pip, then pip install AWS CLI. Okay. We will come to this little later. So currently we are only focusing on installation part. After installation, you will need to run a command called AWS configure. This also we will address very soon. Just bear with me. So on Windows, there is an MSI installer. That is what you should use. So you don't have to worry about installing Python, pip, etc. This will install the CLI, 64-bit or 32-bit. After that, in your command prompt, if you type AWS space -- version, you should see that it is installed. Okay, so you will see the CLI version, Python version, etc., and the Boto version. Now, how do we test your installation? You cannot test it without you configuring it. Can anyone guess what this configuration will do? Anyone? You know, yes, Ashutosh, yes, list region, setup, Subrod Jyoti setup region, Ashutosh description. Actually, these are all correct, but when you type a command, what happens on an AWS CLI? Sai is saying setup attributes and properties. Yes, what attributes and properties, Sai? You know, just listen. When you type an AWS CLI command to start an instance, what happens? Can you guess? It has to talk to Boto, which is sitting behind, which is a Python library, correct? That it already knows. But what else should it know? Yes, Ashutosh saying it will ask authorization key. Yes, because it has to know which AWS account your command should be sent to, isn't it? So that is called configuring. That is called AWS configuring. Okay. So only after you configure, your commands will work or commands should work, because otherwise AWS won't know which account you should send the commands to. Correct? So this is a tricky part. So now when you configure, it will ask you for your access key and access secret key and a default region and the output format. And this will, it will ask this only once. Then what happens if you want to change it? You can type this configure again. What happens if you have Shivang is asking AWS CLI and OS terminal are different. Shivang, to answer this question, OS terminal or the command prompt or the SSH prompt is your shell window using which you will execute AWS CLI commands. So whichever operating system you are using, you will come to the command prompt using PowerShell or command prompt or Git bash, or if it is a Ubuntu, you will come to your terminal window and then install AWS CLI so that your commands will be extended with AWS commands. Now Sai is asking a very, very important question. I was about to come to this. This is so now if you have your account, if you have your friend's account, or if you have your client's account, or if you are supporting multiple AWS accounts, how will you switch the accounts? For that, AWS configure supports multiple profiles. Yeah, so Sarvesh has already installed AWS CLI and configured. That is what you mean, Sarvesh? Okay, great. Okay, so now question is, how, supposing you have multiple AWS accounts to be handled by your AWS command prompt, how will we handle it? You can have profiles. So what happens actually is, let me see if I can show this to you. ls minus. See, if you type your home directory, this stands for home directory, and type .aws, there is a hidden folder which contains the config details. Okay, so I don't want to expose my config details, so let me credentials. So in credentials you can have let me I have to type and show this because I don't want to expose my credentials there. So what I want to tell you is there is a hidden folder in your .aws. There is a hidden folder called .aws. Inside that there will be a credentials file, and that file will have profile sections like myself, and you can add your sections there. Nano temp. You can type myself and your AWS keys, and then you have company, my company, and AWS details for the company. Like this, you can have multiple profiles added to your account, and then after that you type AWS profile equal to myself, and then type in your command, and it will work. So this way you can issue commands for different profiles. Is this clear to you? But this is for academic interest. Initially, at least for first 6 months or so, you will be working only with one profile. So this question of specifying a profile does not arise. Okay. Next is, so that is how you configure. Supposing you don't want to configure and you want to access, then what do we do? There is another way. Okay. So we will come to that soon. But before that, how do we test if the AWS CLI is installed and configured correctly? A command like this should not give any error. Let's try. Describe region. See, it is giving the regions. If there was, if it was not configured, it would have given an error. Now, default output of AWS CLI is in JSON format. JSON format is JavaScript object notation, this curly bracket format. But you can change the format by typing output equal to text. Yeah. Survey says AWS describe region. You must specify a region. You can also configure your region by exactly in your credentials, in your config file, you can specify the default region. Okay. Surveying for me is showing error. So we will address that error, Sarvesh. Okay. So easy to describe region. If I give output as text, Ashutosh, how can I list all regions? So this is the way. AWS easy to describe regions, and it will describe all regions, and output equal to text will give a simple text based output, which is convenient for batch scripting. So for instance, if I want to know Asia Pacific, I can type like this and grep, and so that I will see the Asia Pacific region. Okay, Asia Pacific, South, Asia Pacific, South. Okay. So Ashutosh, your question of how can I list all region is clear? Okay. Now, if you want still a different format, you can type table. Table will give you a different format in a tabular format. Supposing you want to paste it in your Word document or something, you can use output format table. Okay, but mostly personally I use either JSON, which is default, or text depending on my requirement. Default is JSON. See, it's a JSON format. So here I have just pasted those two things. Okay, now before I proceed to next slide, Sarvesh, what is the error that you are getting when you type AWS describe region? Ashutosh, your hand is raised. Do you have any questions? Okay. Uh, yeah. Okay. So see, in Ashutosh and Sarvesh case, let me show you. Let me move the terminal away and show my file where I am saving the default. Okay. See, I have dot. So Sarvesh, do you have a dot AWS folder? In your home directory, and in that you create a config file and put default and specify the default region as US I mean AP-South-1. Okay, so AP-South-1, that is AP-South-1, that is India region. Yes, Madhuri, I am coming to that. So I'm coming to that question. That is a very important question. Where can I check these commands? I can see config in my Windows Git bash. Yes, Ashutosh has AWS config in your Windows Git bash. So Ashutosh is using Windows and Ashutosh is using Windows Git bash. That is what I would recommend, because it gives you a Linux-like environment, so that what you learn, what you practice will be useful for 90 to 95% of the companies. So they all will be using Linux-like environment. So I recommend all of you to install Git bash. Okay. So now if you don't have this config file, and if your describe regions is not working, what all that you need to do is type region equal to AP South-1. Okay, then you will not get that error. But I don't want you to type a region every time, so put it in the default file. So shall we proceed? Okay, next is the important thing what Madhuri was asking. Where can I check? This is your Google-like important website. Every time you will be referring. Sarvesh, provide the syntax for what? syntax for describe region with region, default region. Yes, this is how you provide a region. Otherwise, you put it in your config file. Do you want the config file syntax? This is the config file syntax. But later on, you can watch the video and correct it. Let's proceed. Okay, so this is where you will be visiting. Let's come to that screen, command line. See, this is the website where AWS lists all the commands, and it's a very nice website where it will show you examples of the command. Now, AWS CLI, like I said, has got hundreds of commands. That is AWS space, then the command. It has got hundreds of commands. So what do we do? Most of the commands will start with another prefix. Say, supposing you want to launch instances, you will be using EC2 command. So AWS EC2. So syntax will be AWS and EC2. And if you type help, it will give you a help window with all the possible commands. So see, AWS EC2 itself has got these many commands. Subru Jyoti is saying, need to use individual access key. From where I get those? Yes, Subru, I am coming to that. See now AWS, the services are all interconnected. So either I teach you IAM, that is identity and access management first, or come to command line and then come to auto scaling, or teach command line first and then come to IAM. So because there is an overlapping, so I decided to teach you command line first without telling you how to get the configuration keys. So just bear with me. Very soon, next session next session will be IAM, and then we will see how to get the keys. And I will also show you certain hidden ways of accessing your account. Okay, so now coming back to this AWS EC2, and supposing you want to stop an instance, what you will do is you will type like this and type stop. Then you will get to the command stop. Okay, and now I don't know the parameters, so what I will type, AWS EC2 instances stop and help. And in these screens are based on the less command. So you have to, if you want to search, you have to type a slash. Okay, so stop instances, and what you can do a dry run instance ID and specify the instance ID, and you can specify force. So even if it won't wait for a graceful shutdown, it will immediately stop the instance. And most of these commands will also have a generate CLI skeleton. It will create a syntax like this. It will give you a JSON syntax which you can use. So some like EC2 run instances will need many parameters. So it may not be easy for you to pass these parameters via command line. So you may want to create a text file. You may want to create a text file containing this JSON file, where you can specify the parameters and then EC2 run instance and specify only the JSON, specify only the CLI input JSON and the file path. Is that clear? This is little advanced thing. So if there is a CLI command which has got several parameters, instead of typing all the parameters on the command line, you can put type CLI generates CLI skeleton and pipe that to say stop.json, just giving an example. So stop.json cat stop.json will have the command. Then I edit that stop.json and type my instance IDs here. How many instances I want to stop? I type all the IDs. This is how the instance IDs are. Supposing if I have multiple instances to be stopped, I can put all those IDs in here. So I have a file, correct? Now what I can do is I can specify the file name like using this parameter. Anand Singh is asking, can you please demo creation, deletion, and instance with CLI with more clear? Yes. We are coming to that. But before that, I just want and the file name. Okay. Wait. Stop.json, and this file name has a path. I think it is like this. Let's see. Error occurred, invalid. See, so this is how you should stop instance. I don't have the instance running plus the instance ID. What I have typed is invalid instance IDs. That is why. But this is how. So yeah, you can give a complete path, but this will take it from the current directory. But this is not part of the course. What I want to tell you is, if there is a complex CLI which you want to create, what you will do is you will generate the CLI skeleton into a JSON file and then edit the JSON file and specify it like this using CLI input JSON. So you don't have to specify any other parameter. Now let's come back. So now I just want to tell you about this website, and now let's look at the stop instance line that we saw. Stop instances, and the syntax is here and example is here. So stop instances minus instance ID, and this is how you will stop an instance. But this instance is not there, so it will give error. See, invalid instance. So this is, otherwise it will give an output. Okay. So this is all about AWS CLI. Now let's see a practical example of. So you have to familiarize yourself with trying out commands. Okay, so it has got hundreds of commands, and create an instance. This is very important. Subhraj, I need to see what are the instances there. Okay, Subhraj Jyoti has an important question. How do I see my instances which are running? This is important. So what you will need to type is AWS EC2 describe instances. Okay, so okay, these instances are not your our class instances. These are my other instances. So I type region equal to AP South 1. Okay, I have no instance running. Okay, in our class region. So anytime, see, remember what is very important, don't create instances in other regions. Then you will have instances running in some region which you may not immediately know. Then you have to write a batch script to iterate through all the regions. Instead, always work on one region. Then you know that you have any unwanted billing happening. So this is the command. So now coming back to this slide, how do we create an instance? That is, let's manually type. The command is strange actually. It is not start instance or create instance, it is run instance. So that is slightly confusing. Run instances. Okay. Then I specify the region, then specify image ID equal to AMI hyphen 099 FE 766. If you have any questions, please shoot. And how many instances I want to create? I just want to create one instance. Subru Jyoti, need to set up default region. Yes, it is good habit to set up the default region so that you don't have to type and you don't have to accidentally type different regions. So I want to create just one instance. Okay. And then what I need to do? Instance type. This is important. Other instances can be expensive. You can put equal to sign or no equal to sign. Micro, T2 micro, and key name. Key name, you should have already created the key name during your demo session, demo practicals. And security group, this again is an issue. You should have you should already be having your security group ready to create an instance. Security groups. Subro Jyoti, path, what is your question? Can you elaborate the question? Path space question mark. Path for key? No, this key you don't need to. That is an important question. Subro Jyoti is asking, do we need to specify a path for this key? That is an interesting question, but no need, because this path, this key, it EC2 takes from its account. This is instance type. Okay. Now if I don't want it to run, then I can do dry run. See, I gave a parameter dry run. Okay, let me just put it here. Okay, if you use dry run, it will not run the instance, but it will validate your syntax. So that is useful for you when you experiment with your commands. See, now the error is dry run occurred while calling run instances operation. Request would have succeeded. See, request would have succeeded. Yes, something like debug mode. Now, if I make some other syntax error, dry run would have given unknown. See, it gave syntax error, unknown syntax. But if I specify an invalid security group which is not there, see, let's see what happens. See, invalid parameter occurred calling run instance operation value for parameter group ID is invalid. So it went to account and checked if the security ID is there. Now the question I was waiting for, Surveys has asked. So clap for the question. Question is, where will I get the AMI ID? This is an important question. See, that you have to go to your what I recommend is go to AMI owned by me, public images, and type Ubuntu, and you will see Ubuntu, but you can type my AMI ID. I can filter with AMI ID. See, it is an Amazon AMI ID. Only validate syntax, but valid values. Sorry, it only validates syntax, but no, yeah, it not only validates syntax, it will also check if those values are correct. Okay, so now this is how I got the AMI ID. Okay, but still, if you don't know, what you have to do is you go to instances and launch an instance and choose free tier and choose Ubuntu. Okay, and from here configure instance details. You know what I did? I launched an instance and selected see here, let me see AMI ID free tier eligible. Yeah, see here you can get your AMI ID. So this is another way of getting your AMI ID. Okay, clear? Sarvesh, so there are ways to get your AMI ID. Since Ashutosh, since we are using command AWS EC2, so it won't be possible to get AMI from CLI where only EC2 info is available. Yes, it is possible, but I don't want to choose your AMI that way, because AMI is a critical thing. Some AMI can be very big and expensive, so I don't, and it will not allow T2 micro, etc. So initially, at least when you launch, you get your AMI via the website, just to be safe. Okay, Ashutosh. Okay, then Subro Jyoti, will it always show AMI there? Where in the website? Yes, you come to, you decide on the AMI, because initially our at least for initial few months we are going to use only Ubuntu and learn all services, etc. So just don't worry much about different AMIs and what differences do. Like if you choose Amazon AMI, CLI tools will be pre-installed, but instead we will use Ubuntu and install CLI tools ourselves. So this is not that critical. Only thing is choose AMI which are eligible for free tier, initially at least. Okay. Madhuri, suppose I create a Linux instance, how can I log in the command prompt? Yes, I am coming to that, Madhuri. So now Ashutosh, for the AMI that we created, how can we list those? No, that we have to see. That is again an interesting question. You can check out the command line based thing, but what I do is I come to my AMI and copy it. And so what I do in my scripting is, when I create an AMI, at that time only I will know why I created and how I created, correct? Because there has to be some reason for me to create an AMI. So what I will do is, immediately after I create an AMI, it will give you my AMI ID at the output prompt, which I will save it and save it as a text file or my database with my comments as a part of my automation scripting. You got it? Because later on, knowing your AMI ID will not tell you what the ID is meant for. So you have to have your own documenting mechanism for AMI ID. Okay, so that is it for the purpose of this course. Now let's create an instance. So let's come to the EC2 window and running instance 0 in Mumbai. So the region is Mumbai, okay, Asia Pacific. Now what I will remove this error and remove the dry run. If I give 2 or 10, it will create 10 instances. So if I type enter, if my syntax is correct, it will create an instance. Yeah, see, instance is starting, and JSON output has come saying that instance state is pending. So which means it is service. Supposing we have created own custom AMI, it will generate unique AMI ID. Absolutely, every AMI will have a unique AMI ID. So you can try it. You can try it out as your exercise. You know how to create an AMI. Using that AMI, you create an instance. Okay, so now my instance is done. Now Madhuri's question is, how do we log into the instance? See, I have not touched the GUI. I have only used command line, correct? Now if I run describe instances in south region, I should see the instance, right? Earlier it was empty. See, now I should see the instance, and I will also see the instance state name running. See, sorry, describe instance, output state. Here if I grep state, you can see it is running. So this way you can loop in your batch script or something to see if your instance is from pending, it has become running. So that way you can set a condition also. Okay, state grep minus c running will give you 1 if it is running, and if I let me stop it, instance state, stop it. I could have stopped using command line as well. Instance state, see, it has become 0. This I can put it in your no, Subrodji, there is no sample commonly used sample script. You have to build your script, because somebody else's script can look very complicated, unnecessarily complicated. So what you do is start building your script yourself, like simple scripts. Create instance, create an AMI, use your AMI to create instance, etc. So even if you buy a book on EC2 scripting, it will be so complicated and unusable. It will be a waste of time to try to understand somebody else's script. Instead, what I suggest is learn basic batch scripting so that you are comfortable in getting script values. And so what I do is this: I save it as a value. Okay, so anytime I echo this $Q, it will know if instance is running or not. So I'll start the instance. Ashutosh, can we examine as in instance ID ourselves while creating it to some recognizable format? Like can we name? No, you cannot name. That name that you can only tag instances with your thing. You cannot name is Amazon created, randomly created instance. Okay, so instance is running. See, instance is now running. If I save that to a variable, I can use that variable in my batch scripting for conditionally proceed to other areas of the scripting. So Ashutosh's question, you cannot rename your instance ID or specify your ID because that is Amazon's format, but you can tag your instance with all your conditions. You can say this I created for your demo, etc., etc. That is important. Okay. So what we did now is we only created an instance. Now Madhuri's question of how do I know the IP address of my instance? Again, I do like this: describe my instance and association. Here you see private IP address. Let me make it big. Let me make it big. Network interface. See, this is the public IP address. Okay, so SSH minus I have the key in the current folder already. Ubuntu is the username for Ubuntu instances and the IP address. And if it is an Amazon AMI, the username will be different. It will be EC2 user. Okay. And I am inside the instance. See, I am inside the instance. But if you don't know the syntax, you can also choose the instance and choose connect, and it will tell you the syntax. It will tell you the syntax. So if you use some other AMI which is not Ubuntu, it will tell you the username here. Okay. So what we have done now is we have created an instance and we have logged in using the command. Madhuri, outside the instance in my Linux system, we need to install AWS. Correct. AWS command line you should install on your desktop system. Okay. Now, instance settings, if you see user data, this instance has got empty user data. Do you see this? So I have created an instance using command line, but that instance has empty user data. I'm going to show you one complicated operation which normally you will not be able to do it on your own. All of the things you will be able to do it on your own. So I will show you how to create an instance and load the user data at the same time. Sarvesh has a question. So in CLI mode, keys should already be generated, or we can create new keys. If we create a new keys, how and where do we download? Yes, Sarvesh. Like I said, I am and this CLI is slightly overlapping, but I have to cover this, then come to the key part. So after that, we will come immediately after this. We will come to IAM, where we will see how to create keys, how to create additional keys, how to revoke keys, etc. Okay, Ashutosh, your hand is raised. Any question? So shall we proceed to last demo in CLI where we load user data? So we saw this, how to create an instance. I am adding this backslash because it is a long command line. Now bootstrapping is loading a user data which we have seen in our previous session, which will be loaded as your metadata. So what we need to do is same command, but we added one line user data and specified the file name like this. And but before we execute the command, you have to create this file, user data.txt file, which will contain the user data. Here what I'm doing is I'm cloning the website, installing Apache and cloning the website. So that is all we need to do. Do we need to do this, or this is enough? Anybody wants me to do this via command line? Yes, I have shown how this user data works. Kamlesh, yes, please. Okay, so see, watch carefully. I have created a file, cat user data. What is my user data? User data 1.txt. No, sorry, I am inside the instance. So now, before I proceed, I don't want this instance, correct? So how do I terminate the instance? I don't know the command. So what do I do? I type help. Yes, exactly. Ashutosh Sai Control D. Yes, I come to this thing and type terminate. See, terminate instances is the command. So I copy this and type EC2 terminate, and then I type the help again to see the parameters of terminate. See, terminate instance IDs. But I don't know the instance ID of my instance. So what I can do is I can describe my instance, and here I will see my instance ID. Where is my instance ID? Instances. This is my instance ID, but it is very, very risky to look at like this and check it. So I recommend go to this and confirm that this instance is what I have launched. Otherwise, it will terminate your live instance. So here, see, currently this is running, correct? This is running. This is instance state is running. Now I am executing terminate instance. Invalid array, terminate instance. Instance ID does not occur. Anybody wants to guess why it gave an error? Anybody want? Key? No. Key is okay, but you are close to it. Region, exactly, Ashutosh. Region different. It will try to delete this instance ID from my default region, which is not AP South. So I specify AP-South. So these confusions you will encounter. So most probably most of your confusion will revolve around getting mixed up in region. Okay, so I do like this, and then the instance will go. See, instance current state shut down, and if I refresh, you will see it is shutting down. See, and in the command line also I can see the instance state. See, instance state shutting down. And one more line is there, user initiated shutdown. State reason is there. So this way you can automate using a batch script. But now what we have done is we have created an instance, logged into the instance, then we found out the instance ID and terminated the instance. Now what we will do is I will use a user data cat user data 1.txt. This is a small user data which will do install and create a custom website. But instead of that, to speed up, I will edit this and create only a custom website in there. In index.html, I'll create a, I'll call it new hello world. So what it will do is it will install Apache on the newly created instance, and it will create a web page containing just one line, new hello world. Okay, that is all it will do. So whole thing it is going to do in an automated way. So the command that I will use is this. Instead of spending time in typing the command, I will specify user data. See, I will specify user data. So for clarity, what we will do is we will use the same command. Okay, same command that we use to create the instance. Okay, so this is the command where Hari Krishna is asking, where are we creating? I am creating in the current folder or anywhere on my desktop. Okay, so currently it is in the current folder. See, I have my user data here, the current folder. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is if you run this command like before, it will only create an instance, but its user data will be empty. So the instance will not be prepared for production use. But now I'm specifying a user data which will further automate, and you will get a ready-made web server with the web page preloaded with your line, the like new hello world. See, if I press enter, this should create an instance. See, it created an instance, and if you go here, you will see that instance coming. See, new instance is coming, and if I choose this instance settings user data, you will see that our user data has come. Where is the, sorry, I made a mistake. You know what? I made a mistake. I choose user data 2, but I edited user data 1. So what I will do is I will terminate this instance. That user data 2 I want to teach after we study IAM, when we study load balancing. So I'm going to terminate the instance. When I terminate, I will verify. Sai has a question. If user had text in the current folder, then we don't need to specify the path. Yes, but you need to give a file syntax. Jahani is asking, what is user data exactly? What is the significance of that? Okay, let me explain to that again. Okay, so see, what I want is, I have a user data file here. Let me cat it, or let me call it user data 3. Okay, and remove all unwanted lines so that I can explain this to Ijahani. I remove this, remove this, remove this, remove this. So this is a text file. Agreed? This is a bash script, because first line has the bash bang notation. So this file will get executed using bash scripting language. And what this is doing, it will update the repository index, then it will install Apache web server, then it install Git, which we don't need it for this exercise. Then it will restart Apache web server, and it will copy a web page, just a simple web page containing one line to this file name, which is Apache's file. Is this clear, Ijahani? Forget about user data. Is these commands okay with you? Okay, now you don't use user data. Then supposing you have created an instance using command line, which is a plain instance like how we did before, you have to execute execute these commands, log into that instance and execute these commands one by one, correct? Instead of that, if you specify user data, it will execute it for you. So you don't have to have SSH access and log into your server, and you don't even have the key. You don't even need to have the key to access. You can even close your SSH port so that nobody can access it, and all these things will get pre-installed. Kamlesh, I think Tomcat by default is pointing to SW folder. No, we are not installing Tomcat. We are installing Apache web server. Tomcat will point to a default Tomcat's document root. Subrot Jyoti, install web server every time is a must? No, I'm giving an example. It can be Tomcat server, it can be something else. It depends on what your company wants. When you launch an instance, you're launching for some purpose, correct? So that purpose can be different from people to people. Yes, Kamlesh, yes, Apache 2 is pointing to var HTML folder, correct? Okay. So that is user data, and user data is I am calling it user data 3. Ashutosh, other examples like setting hostname, IP tables. Yeah, the examples can definitely vary. So let's focus on this now. So I am specifying this user data and creating a new instance. And here, so see, our focus is not on configuring Ubuntu server or configuring Apache, etc. Focus is to study AWS ways of doing it. Okay. But if you do a certain things and it's not working, you can send your command to tax support, and I can work and try to debug it for you. Okay, so now new instance is getting created. If you look at the instance settings and metadata, you will see that our new user data has been copied from my desktop. See, my user data user data 3 has been copied from my desktop to the instance, and instance will execute it for me. Yes, if command line fails, so Sai has an interesting question. For any reason, if command line fails, what is the status? That I want you to check it. This is a part of a pipeline automation where your command line can take time to execute. Command line can fail. So those things you have to capture in your batch script and throw correct exit code so that this exit code is available in your automation. This I can show when we reach a sophisticated automation tool called Cloud Formation later. How to track the exit code of your user data and do further actions. Okay, so for now, you will not see that status. Okay, so you need to wait, but you can experiment. Okay, so this instance is getting created, it is initializing, it is executing, and once it is ready, what will happen is, let's try to describe instances and get this instance ID so that all these terminated instances won't come in our output. Okay. Instance IDs. Let's see the state. It is running. Okay. So now I want the IP address of this instance. Okay, this is the network attached association. This is the public IP address of this instance, and if I browse, see our Apache is outputting new hello world. I can browse this on the browser as well. See, so what we have done is using only command line, we have launched an instance and we have installed a web server, Apache web server, and we have created a test web page, and we are able to browse it without using the GUI at all. Okay, so you build on it, experiment with it, and we'll take a break and we'll meet at 9:20 with your questions. So please collect your questions, and your questions will make the course interactive, interesting, and educative for others. Okay, bye bye. Okay, let's continue. Any questions so far? Can you hear me? Any questions so far, or anything that I have not answered? Okay, Sarvesh has a thing, AWS, easy to describe regions. Name SSL is not defined. I have not seen this. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, I have not seen this error, so I need to see. Can you see my screen? Okay, so I will have to check on it, Sarvesh. What is this? AWS. If you type AWS space minus minus version, do you get any error? Okay, so that is fine, no error. So now what I want is, I want you to share your config file. If there is any syntax error, so it can be the config file. So what I would do initially would be rename .aws folder. I'll type, what I will do is mb.aws2.aws bad. Okay, this is small m. Okay, assuming that you are in the home directory, and then I type aws configure, so that it will configure fresh. But before that, hang on, let's come to IAM, where I will teach you how to get the codes, how to get the access ID, etc. Okay, now coming back to a few more slides I need to cover. Securing, you have to ensure that your AWS config is read protected by other users, so that your credentials are safe. And you can also access AWS command line by using the environment variables. So if you do export and your secret key, access key, and then you can use it without configure. Is this clear? Okay, so this also is another way of using it. So all you do is export AWS key, export this, and then this AWS EC2 will check the environment variable and use these values. But after that, you have to ensure that you unset these values so that others won't see it, and then you will get this error after unsetting. That I have put it anyway in the slide. This is a homework. Install AWS CLI, Windows Git Bash preferred. Configure AWS CLI using an environment variable. Create instance along with user data. I have given all these examples in the slide itself, so that it is easy for you to get on correctly. But you must build on it further by installing Tomcat or whatever other configuration that you want. So let's leave CLI slide and come to IAM. IAM is a very large area, but we will address all essential parts. Okay. Identity access management. Identity access management is IAM. and this is me, Sri Prakash Neelakantan, and this is the contact tax support at Collabra, and this is the icon of IAM. Uh, let's quickly read through these slides before we come to the practicals. AWS Identity and Access Management is a web service that helps you to securely control access to AWS resources for users. You use IAM to control who can access your AWS resources and how they can use your resources. So authentication and authorization, the two aspects to it, who can access and what they can access. IAM roles are a secured way to, this is another confusing thing, but we have to get ourselves clear on this. We will do practicals on this. IAM roles are secured way to grant permission to permissions to entities that you trust, permission to entities that you trust. I am user of another access application code running on EC2 instance that needs to perform AWS. We will use this as an example to understand this. Next is, IAM gives you the following features. One is shared access to your AWS account. You can create other users and give them access. But be very careful. You give access to only people whom you know or people who need access to your account. Because finally you have to pay for the resources that you use. And granular access, you can fine tune what exactly you want them to access. That is called granular permissions. This can be a certification question. IAM gives you following features. Continued, secure access to AWS resources for applications that run on Amazon EC2. Multi-factor access, like OTP, you can install an app on your phone, and when you after you type your email and password, it will ask you to mobile app, and it will give you a random number which you also need to type. So that way, this can be a physical hardware device as well, but that is not easy to get. So what you can do is you can install the mobile app and authenticate for this purpose. So every time you need to log into your console, you can enter, in addition to your username password, you will need to enter one 6-digit number. Identity federation, you can access other accounts and join them as well. Give temporary access to other accounts, etc. Identity information for assurance. You can use CloudTrail to receive logs, records, etc. This, when we see those sections, we will understand. Next is this terminology you will come across in AWS in many places, called eventually consistent. What it means is, if you make some change, that change may not be immediately visible, but it will eventually become visible. Okay, so that you need to remember. IAM is eventually consistent. So some changes that you make may not be reflected instantly. So you need to ensure that changes are propagated. Propagated means every region, you know why this is eventually consistent. IAM is a global feature. IAM is valid across all regions. So suppose you create a new user in from your Mumbai region account, that user has to be reflected in Singapore, US, Europe, etc. So there is a small latency or small delay for this user to appear in other region. That is what this eventual consistency means. And that copying is called propagation. And IAM is free. So see, AWS is very, very clever. Most of the configurations are free. There is no charge. But anytime when you make use of those configurations to create an instance, etc., you will need to pay. So now coming back to major architecture of IAM, it has got groups, it has got group members. So these are all user names within a group. Admin group can have, say, for instance, Bob, Susan, they will have administrative rights. You can have developer group with certain features, certain access rights, and you can add groups to it. You can testing group. So you can organize your AWS account into different groups with permissions. So instead of granting permission to individual users, you can grant permission to a group. This is much more safer and secure. So if you have hundreds of users, if you organize them to groups, you can easily add permission to group which will be received by all the members of the group. That is the advantage of having groups. So this is again the same explanation to create a group, create administrative access, and then add members to the group. We will see this as an example. Then comes to password policy. When you create passwords, when we create users, you can set password. You can allow the user to change their password. You can restrict the password in a secured way. Password expiration requires, and password you can, this is important as well. You can check mark this and put 90 days or 30 days, and every 30 days your users will need to change your password. Yes, Santosh, shoot your question. Santosh is asking, does this policy reflect to the user account on the machines? Absolutely not. We are only talking of Amazon Cloud Service account. We are not talking about the instances that you run and the users that run, user that you create within the instances. But it will have an indirect effect on what that instance can do with Amazon resources. We will come to that part soon. Sarvesh, can we manage IAM through CLI? To answer that question, we have to go to this. I have not managed, because most of this IAM automation I have done for infrastructure use only. So let's look at the command line interface documentation, AWS, and look at IAM. See, IAM is there, and IAM can create user. IAM can create user. But this I recommend, at least for initial year, don't use it, because we don't know exactly the state using which you will create these things. So it is safer. What I suggest is user creation, etc., will happen only once in a while. So I recommend using GUI to manage your users, etc., and permissions, etc. Sarvesh, yeah, it is for INRA level, not for instance level. So what is INRA, Sarvesh? Okay, infrastructure. Service means it is at infrastructure level. Yes, correct. So command line can be used for creating users. Generally, I tell you, in my last several years of experience, I never had to do it. But there is another way of allowing instances to access AWS resources. We will come to that. Okay, let's come back to our slides. This is password policy, so ensure that you set your password policy correctly. And there is a thing called roles. This is slightly confusing for engineers initially to understand. You know, you have an EC2 instance and you are logged into that instance. Okay. Now from that instance, you want to access other AWS resources, or you want to access AWS CLI. Then what do we have to do? Can anyone guess? See, I am logged into an instance, and from within that instance, I want to access AWS CLI. What I will have to do? Can anyone guess? Santosh, we need to use IAM. Yes, we need to use IAM to get AWS ID, etc., which we will come to soon. Rengarajan is saying CLI to get installed in instance. Exactly. So a clap for Rengarajan. We need to install AWS CLI into that instance. We will see that. Okay. After that, what we need to configure the instance with the credentials. Correct? And if you configure, listen very, very carefully. This is an exam question. This is a tricky thing. If you configure the CLI inside an instance where you enter your AWS access ID and private key, what will happen? AWS will create a configure will create a hidden folder .aws and save the credentials into the credentials file, isn't it? And by mistake, if you create an AMI out of this instance, or you duplicate this instance, I saying region, yes, you need to configure the region as credentials will get leaked, because your credentials folder will get saved into that AMI, and somebody else launching an instance using your AMI will know your credentials. Rengarajan, from instance, can I refer the key file at the desktop from instance? No, you cannot. But I'm not talking of that key. I'm talking of the access credentials, which we will come to that. So don't confuse it with the SSH key yet. This is the authorization key. Yes, Sarveshu is saying if you create a duplicate copy of that instance, it becomes an integrity issue, and this is an important AWS certification question. So you never run AWS configure and enter your keys in an instance to allow that instance to access other resources. For this, you will use AWS roles. Santosh, but then AWS access key can be taken from GUI once to take access. Yes, you can only take once. from the GUI. Later on, you will not get the access secret key from the GUI also. Sarvesh, we have to set up on local machine with own account. What is that? A question or a statement, Sarvesh? Okay, yeah, yes, we have to set up on a local machine. So, no, what I'm saying is AWS provides a very clever way of giving a rotating access key, which will rotate every few minutes. I will show you how that work in practically. Can use the same, can the user use the group? Yes, but still AWS instance will not be able to access other AWS resources. Rangarajan, so we have to create a separate key for target instance and save a local instance. No, for that we have to use roles. So what roles will do? It will give you a temporary key for your instance. That key will get expired. Survey, yes, I have seen keys is changing after every access ID is persistent. Yes, I will demonstrate this. Okay. So this picture depicts how a role works. We will see this in practice. So roles, application must sign their API request with AWS credentials. Therefore, if you are an application developer, you need a strategy for managing credentials for your application that run on EC2 instances. For example, you can securely distribute your AWS credentials to your instances, enabling the application on those instances to use your credentials to sign requests, while protecting your credentials from other users. However, it is challenging to securely distribute your credentials. Supposing you don't want to use roles, then you have to have your own technical circus to distribute your keys in a secured way. You must also be able to update the credentials if you rotate your AWS keys. AWS designed IAM roles so that your application can securely make API requests from your instances without requiring to manage the security credentials and that the application use. Instead of creating and distributing your AWS credentials, you can delegate permission to make API requests using IAM roles. Okay, so we have to see it, otherwise it can look confusing. So don't worry yet, I will show GUI method and I will also show command line method of using roles. Create an AMI role with accounts. You can only attach one AMI role. Now, when we launch an instance, this is where you will specify the roles. Okay, so instance profile and roles can seem confusing, but for your understanding, understand that instance profile uses roles. Before we come to practice, let's quickly go through IAM best practice, which we can come again if you have any doubt during next session. Lock your AWS root access keys so that nobody has access to it. Don't share your keys, but instead create individual IAM users. Use AWS defined policies to assign permission wherever. This you may not know now. AWS gives you policies. We will see that. Use groups to assign permission. Don't create hundreds of users and give them individual permissions. Instead of that, create few groups and add users to the groups and give permission to the users. Grant minimum permission. So if they will complain, let them complain to you saying that they can't access this, then you give them that access. Instead of that, don't give the full access. Use access levels to review IAM permissions. We will see this. Configure a strong password policy, enable multi-factor authentication for us using an app. But for our device, hardware device, like a bank's security token. Use roles. We will see this in practice. Delegate using roles. Yes, we will see. Rotate credentials regularly. Change your password. Remove unnecessary credentials. Any user who have left the company, you must ensure that you delete. Use policy conditions. Extra conditions you can put so that certain IP addresses only will access your account, etc. And multi-factor authentication. Monitor activity using CloudWatch, CloudTrail. We will see them when we study that. Okay. Now create a group. Let's look at these slides and then we will manually do this ourselves. Okay. Administrator access. Okay, so first we will create a group. Okay, so just watch carefully. So this I want you to do in your homework as well. I will come to IAM. This is the first time I'm coming to IAM to demonstrate. By end of this session, you will also know how to get your access keys. I will create groups. Okay, create a new group. Say demo 2 admin group. Any user added to this group will have these policies. These are the predefined policies. So here, if I want this user to EC2 full access, I can give like this. Or administrator access, I can give like this. I can choose what admin this is. So this is the thing, and then I click create group. So I have created a group, demo group. Okay, and it has one administrator access policy. You can attach more policies to this group. For now, administrator access is enough. Okay, so let's come back to our slide. And now I create a user. Come to this user and create add user. And I create, say, I call it another, or I call it Sam. Okay. User details. You can decide what this user can do. You can only allow programmatic access, or you want the user to access GUI also. If you want to this user to access GUI, you check mark this. But I don't want to create this user unnecessarily now. Okay, again after creating, you can add this user. Okay, let's create this. I will call it demo, Sam demo. Otherwise, I won't know later what this user is. Okay, I am allowing him programmatic access and console access. User must create a new password after that can be checked in. Okay, permission. Now here, add user to a group. I can add this user to the newly created group so that I don't have to give individual permission. Now whatever permission the group has, this new user has. Okay. So what I did is I went to IAM, I created a group, and now in users, if I look in SAM demo, I see security credentials. I can click here and change the password for this user. and here I can access the access key. Do you see this? I can uh, create this access key, and it will create, and we can see the secret key only once. See this secret key. So you have to copy this and put it carefully, safely, and when you do your AWS configure, this is what you will use. Okay, so we have created this access key, and then you can't use, and then if you don't want it, you have to make inactive. Okay, clear? So this is how to create a user and add a user to a group, and also get the access key. Any questions so far? Upload SSH key below. Yes. Okay, that is not a part of the course, but you can upload your SSH key so that you don't have to specify your SSH part. Okay, so like how you publish your public key to your server and put it in authorization file, it does the same thing. Then I am user creation. We have seen create a user and add the user to a group, and creating user to use API. Now this is a completely different thing. So now here, what I have done, see what I have done is, what I will do, what I will demonstrate is, I will create, no, but actually this part I have already demonstrated this to you, creating a user using CLI, and you get the access key, and access key is specified like this. Yes, Madhuri is asking a question. After creating a user, we are able to log in EC2 instance using that username. Exactly. And that user will have only the permissions you have created, you have authorized. Okay. So in this case, a new user's access key and the secret key I am using here, and using the AWS CLI command. This part I have already covered, how to use the key. Now this is what we are going to do in new. Now just watch what I am doing. I am selecting roles. Remember, for all practical purposes, these roles have no connection with users. So don't get confused now with roles and users. Agreed? Treat roles as something completely independent for the ease of understanding. I am creating an AWS service role, okay, with EC2, and allow EC2 instances to access AWS services. So after selecting roles, I click this, and I click this, and then next, permissions. What I will do, I will give EC2 full access for purpose of this demo. I will give EC2 full access to see what I have done. I am creating a new role which has nothing whatsoever to do with users. Roles are, you treat roles as independent things, otherwise you will get confused. These are not users roles or groups roles or anything. Next, I come to the screen and I call this Sri's demo role. Okay. Kamlesh saying roles are to manage applications and their access. Yes, but for in this demo, Kamlesh, the roles are for EC2 instance AWS CLI to access services. Yes, Madhuri is saying if the roles are independent, what is the use? We are coming to that now. So this is the role's name, and I am creating the role. Okay, so I have created a new role. Now what I am going to do is I am going to launch an EC2 instance. Okay, I have one running instance which I will need to terminate. Instance state terminate. Before terminating, I will ensure that it is the demo instance. Okay, so I have now no instances running. Clear? This is a simple command line demonstration. I will click launch instance. Free tier to be safe, and I will choose Ubuntu and instance details. Do you see one thing here? I am role, and here the new role that I have created has come, but I am not choosing it now. I am proceeding as usual. I just want to show you what happens. Any questions in these steps? Please feel free to ask. These are the things that we have done many times now. Now you guys have all become EC2 experts. Demo key I am launching. Let the instance launch. Let's find out its public IP. Let the IP come. We will log in, install CLI tools, and try to access. Let's public IP has come, and let's SSH -i Ubuntu at sudo apt get update sorry okay let it update. We will just get the AWS CLI installation. This way we can install AWS CLI, or there is a better way. Just one second. User data 1, user data 2. Let's see what this does. Command line CLI user data. Okay, so we will use this only. Sudo apt-get install python pip, and then pip install AWS CLI. So what I am doing now is I have launched an instance without using a role, and then I am installing AWS command line tools inside the instance. Then I will try to access some command, AWS command, and see what happens. So just bear with me. Okay. Pip install. Okay. So this is the older way of installing. Actually, apt-get install AWS CLI we can do directly. So I need to correct my slide. Sorry about that. Okay, let's see if AWS CLI has come. Yes, AWS CLI is installed. Now, if we try to say describe regions, must specify a region. Region equal to AP South -1. Let's see if this works. See, it's saying unable to locate credentials. You can configure using AWS configure. So if I do AWS configure, what it will do? See, it will ask you my access ID. If I type something and type something for key and default region, I'll type correct region, AP South, AP South 1, default format none. See, now what it has done is let's see, it is in home Ubuntu Ubuntu.aws. It has created a hidden folder AWS and created 2 files, and the credentials are copied to this. See, so this is a security threat. I don't want, and by mistake if I create an AMI out of this instance, my key will go and anyone creating an instance will get to know my credentials. So this is not the correct, so never run AWS config on an instance. So this is an exam question, so I will delete this folder altogether. Okay, so if I run this, it should say run configure, correct? So far is clear? Because what I'm teaching you here, you will not find anywhere in the documentation. So far it's clear. What I have done so far is clear. Can I get some confirmations? Okay, great. So now I will exit this and terminate this instance. Okay, so I will terminate this instance. With that instance anyway did not use any role. So instance is terminate. When I terminate, I'll again verify that this is the correct instance being terminated. Now I will launch another instance. Free attire, again Ubuntu, instance details. Here I will choose a role. Okay. Same steps I am following, only difference is here I am going to choose a role. And storage, I am not making any change here. Security group, I will choose the same security group. Review and launch, same keys. I'm launching. View instances. Let's get into the instance. Madhuri, I mean without login instance. What is the question? The same way we need to create it in my desktop, right? Means what, Madhuri? Can you elaborate your question? This instance role you cannot use on your desktop. This is only for Amazon created thing. This is the public IP. No, for AWS CLI, yes, you have to install AWS. If it is Windows, you download Windows MSA installer and install. If it is Ubuntu, apt-get install AWS CLI. Okay, so I'll get into this new instance. And I'll get in as root apt get update and install AWS CLI. Okay, Anand has a question. Anand, I will come to that question. So Anand's question is important now, but I will come to that. So I will read this question later and give a clap also for this question. But just remember, let's complete this. I want all of you to understand the two things that I have done now. And see, now what I have done is I have installed AWS CLI. AWS version means CLI has come. Now if I type AWS, I will still need to provide the region. See, see, describe instance. I don't want to describe instance, describe region. Describe, sorry, regions. Okay, see, yeah, thanks, Sai. Since we are mapping IAM role instance creation, how can we, yeah, so that question will, see, do you see the difference? It did not ask for the AWS credentials. Can I get some confirmation? What I am trying to explain. Is this clear? Great. So Amazon has got a secret way of managing a rotating set of credentials. So which I am explaining it in here. Kamlesh, you have logged in as a root or a different user? No, same user. There is no need to be in root as well. It is getting credentials from internal mechanism. So let's come back to IAM and come back to our slides. A role, we have created a role, we have used the role, we have created an instance using the role, and now I'm going to show you where this role comes, how this AWS CLI gets the role. See, I told you there is a instance metadata and user data 169. This IP address you have to remember 254:169.254/ it will always be latest and metadata. What is that? So I am so with IAM we can assign permission to a group of who would not need AWS configure. Yes, yes. The group. No, actually, with IAM, this is not assigning permission to users. Actually, these are assigning permission to roles. Anand. Okay, so metadata, and there is a thing called security I am, then security credentials. See this. Here, my role, demo role is there. And if you see access ID and the secret key are there. So when you type whatever command, when you type, it will first check if environment variables have the access key and secret ID stored. If not, it will check the .aws folder to see if there is a credentials file and it has the key, etc. But then it will check this and get the key from there, and this key will constantly be rotated. So even if somebody gets access to it, it is of no use. Amazon will chain the key. Okay, so this is important for your understanding. So AWS CLI, you don't run on an instance. You don't run AWS CLI configure on an instance, but you will attach roles. Now coming to Anand's question, which will deserve a clap, is, since we are mapping IAM role at the time of instance creation, how can we upgrade permissions of IAM role that is already assigned to EC2 instance if required in future? So this is an exam question as well. So a clap. See, now we have assigned what to this role? Demo EC2 role. So we have assigned this. If you want to attach some other role like S3 bucket full access, S3 bucket full access, sorry, it opened, S3 full access, check mark this and attach policy. Now, without doing anything on that instance will get more access rights. You got, Anand? Great. Now Kamlesh is keen to notice the difference. I attach this to another role. That instance, I should have used Sri's demo role. So this one, thanks for observing that, Kamlesh. Now here also I can attach. See, now I will get this permission also in that instance. Clear? So this is what I wanted to highlight as a part of this. This is not a part of the course, but understanding this is so crucial. I want all of you to go through this slide and see. Okay, this is how to install the CLI and automated CLI access. This I have covered. Attaching policy we have seen. Policy options. Policy has many options. See, I just wanted to say groups, policy, user policy, EC2 demo, EC2 user has got this policy, security credentials. See, there is a thing called policy simulator. See, groups, demo admin. So let's come to group and see the demo admin and attach group. This group has no policy. Demo to admin has got this policy. Do you see on the right side, you can simulate the policy. Ashutosh, after updating policies to a role, does the effect, Ashutosh question, after updating policies to a role, does the effect automatically apply to groups assigned? No, like I said, roles and groups, for now, you don't think that they're connected. Roles are independent thing. Yes, Sai. For now, for your understanding, treat roles as independent way of accessing, allowing access to your instances. Okay, so if you click simulate policy, it will open up a new window. Yes, Ashutosh, type in your question. So here you can choose a service. Okay, it is only loading. Say Amazon EC2 service. You have to scroll down. Elastic EC2 service. I'm choosing a service. Select action. I say run instance. Okay. Action 1 selected. See, it will tell you it can run instances. It allowed. So this way you can, in a complex environment, you can simulate the policy and see if it is correctly enabled or not. Okay, what is the question? Actually, if a group has been assigned a role already, will any change to the role affect the group? Yes, but we are not seeing assigning groups to roles. Okay. We are only talking roles as independent entity for our course. Sai has a question. Can we reassign a role to an instance? It was not possible. But let me see if Amazon has changed it. See, now I have an instance running. Let's come to an instance, one running instance. Instance state, instance setting. Yeah, see, this menu was not there some 6 months back. Now, so thanks, Sai, for this question. You can change the role. You can change it. Okay. So clap for this question. Let's finish the slides. Attach policy, we have seen policy simulator. I've shown it, but play around with your policy simulator so that you can see how it works. And you can detach policy anytime. It's similar to attach. And so let's come back to IAM and the groups. This has got one user attached, demo to admin, attach policy. So I detach this policy from the group and it is gone. This group has no permission. The user that I have created, the SAM demo, I will add permissions. I will detach. See, in user's case, there is no detach, but this into button will detach. So this user has no permission. Okay. And you can delete the user as well. Delete user. Okay, that user has gone. And so detaching policy. So now the homework is create one admin group, create one admin user with 2 normal users, add above users to group, attach policy to groups, create API, CLI, and use environment variable to access it. Create a role, create a API CLI user. So you create a user with no log console access, but only use the copy the access ID and secure key and test your account, test your access, and then create a role and use instance profile to access and explore the roles using curl and metadata. So that is very interesting because it is good to know where Amazon stores these credentials. And you do not run AWS configure inside instances. Okay, and remember, we are entering into a dangerous area where we are scripting and automating. Don't run more instances, and don't forget the region, and don't forget to delete the instances immediately after use. So if you launch 10 instances and stop it after 5 minutes, still you have to pay for 10 hours of instance time. Though the amounts will be small, but still you just be aware of it. So that comes next is auto scaling. So before I start on this will need extensive demonstration of how auto scaling and load balancing work. So we will continue this in the next session. So till that time, if you have any questions, I will cover. Otherwise, I will introduce auto scaling. Yeah, yes, and thanks. Next week, Saturday, Sunday is holiday, so we'll be meeting after 14 days. Any questions so far? What we have covered in IAM and CLI, they are critical topics, and I have given you all confidential information essential for your comfortable journey. Anything which you feel is not clear to you? The usage of, please repeat what required for auto scaling. Okay, so auto scaling we have not covered. So let's go through the auto scaling slides if you have no questions. So welcome to auto scaling. This is the trainer, Sri Prakash Neelakandan. This is the contact information, and here is what happens in auto scaling. Scaling means adding more computing power, or adding more resources, or adding more to your infrastructure. It can be memory, CPU, anything. And when the demand increases, if it is a bare metal computing like physical computers, when the load increases, we have to plan for the load increase and request purchase orders to buy more computers, and it could take weeks to months to these computers to arrive and get it installed and be ready for production. But in auto scaling of a cloud infrastructure like AWS, along with load, your computing power can increase or decrease. So supposing morning there is a low load, you may need only one or two instances, but in the noon when the load is increasing, you may need to add 4 or 3 or more instances, and then there is a dip, and evening again the load increases and you need to provision. This is called scaling, and when this happens in an automated way, it is called auto scaling. Clear? You need to know the difference between auto scaling and load balancing, which I will explain soon. Okay, anybody wants to guess what is load balancing and what is auto scaling? Okay, let me, before I go to next slide, supposing you have 4 web servers, identical applications running on them. If somebody is browsing, first person is browsing, that browser request will reach this server. Next time when somebody browses, or immediately someone else is browsing, that request will go here. Yes, Subrod Jyoti is saying load balancing is to divide the load equally. Exactly. Clap for this reply. So, if you have 4 web servers and concurrent users, the load will get distributed evenly, or based on certain logic, they will get distributed to these. Load balancing is different from auto scaling. Scaling will add more computing power. That is the difference. Okay, so there are 2 different things. Next slide. So this again the same picture in a different way. Auto scaling adjusts the capacity of the computing. Sunday little less, Wednesday maximum number of computing resource. Subro Jyoti, scaling is to allow the resources as and when you need. Exactly. That is called scaling, and when this happens automated way, it is called auto scaling. So for this purpose, during scaling, you need to know bootstrapping. But like I said, there are overlapping sections. So bootstrapping, I have already taught you. This is the user data. I have taught you how to specify user data via the GUI. I have also taught you how to specify user data via the command line. Auto scaling advantages. It increase or decrease your EC2 instance capacity automatically as per conditions, set conditions. Conditions means load. Increase instance during demand, increase to maintain performance, and vice versa. It saves cost and suitable for stable demand and daily seasonal demand changes only. This is very, very important. This can be an exam question. Auto scaling cannot be used on sudden demands where you need instantly 10 more computers, because auto scaling will need to launch the instance. It will need to boot the instance with user data. It can take a minute or 2 for the instance to be ready. So overall, auto scaling results in better fault tolerance, better availability, and better cost management. So we will stop here and continue with auto scaling with the next session, that is after 2 weeks. Okay, so no, so, tomorrow there is class. So Sunday there is class. Tomorrow we will cover auto scaling, which will be very interesting, where we will increase the load on an instance and see new instance coming up in an automated way. Okay, so thank you all for your excellent participation, and see you all tomorrow. And write down all your questions so that you can ask them tomorrow, and that is the advantage of online trainer run sessions. Okay, bye bye. I'm muting myself. Thank you. Bye bye.